Hello and welcome. So in this video I thought I would go over the Top Mac Studios F-22 integrated control panel here, which is just below the HUD and above the primary MFD. Contains a scratch pad and everything we need for autopilot and the menus for the systems on the aircraft. So yeah, let's go over the layout. So we have a rocker switch on the top left hand corner. These are our menu buttons here: COM1, COM2, nav, steer point, IFF, altitude, HUD, others and DVR. DVR doesn't have a function at the moment. Either side we have some scrollers for left hand side we've got COM1 and COM2 volumes. On the right hand side we've got HUD brightness and the ICP brightness, which is for these little displays here. We have our scratch pad containing all the numbers. You'll notice that there's not an enter button, and that's because we use the Mach button here to enter anything that we input. These select any sub menus that are within the menus contained in the functions from the top buttons there. And then we have a rocker switch here which will change the pages in those sub menus. So as you can see, we're already in COM1. So in here, if you're into your manual ATC, this is where you'll change your frequencies. So click that button there, 1, 2, 3, don't need a decimal, 5, 0, and then press Mark, and as you can see the frequency has changed. That's the same with COM2. As you can see, next to it we've got a digit/digit, and this will tell you how what page you're on of how many pages there are in the sub menu. Go to nav, and we can choose nav1, nav2, TACAN1, TACAN2. These two do not have a function at the moment. ADF, and if you hit the rocker you come down to ILS1 and ILS2. So in here is where you put your nav data. So if you're following VORs, this is where you would input the frequencies. So, or even ILSs, I do apologise. So if we put in, if we scroll down to frequency adjust 10990, enter, and you can see it's changed. That is ILS, that is a well-known ILS frequency. I think that might even be for Cranwell. No, I can't be 100% sure on that one. And then what will happen is in the autopilot, when we select the approach, the ILS will automatically switch on and it will do its stuff. But as you can see, nav1 has 3 different pages. It gives you it's a frequency for here because it's already identified it's Lakenheath on there. Range, we are there basically. The radial it's on in degrees, and then not sure, I think that's local time perhaps. So yeah, we go to click nav again. As I say, TACANs are not in use. ADF, you can change your frequency for the ADF. So 7692 Mark. As you can see, it's changed the ADF. And if you're listening to the Morse code in your headset, then you can adjust the volume there. And it gives you an identification and a bearing, just like the nav data does. Click nav again. We'll come down to the ILS. You can't actually input the frequency in ILS because it's already done in the nav1 or nav2. But once the ILS is switched on and it acquires a localizer and glide slope, it will tell you, and it will tell you the distance again, the bearing. So if you want to fly it manually, you can. Steer point. This has 3 pages. If you have a flight plan, this will give you all the information on the current steer point that you're going through. Bearing, range, and it will tell you which one you're following. IFF doesn't have a function, but is just there for looks. As you can see, we've got IFF Mach 3 M3A, sorry, but we can change the mode to, I don't know, let's go down to mode 5, and it will tell us that we're in mode 5 there. We can change our squawk, which is up here, so it tells us we're in mode 5 and we're squawking 7000. We want to change, get given a different squawk code, so 6519er Mark. Okay, that didn't work. 6519er Mark. Oh, okay, so it did work. I do apologise. So yeah, now you're squawking 0651. So go back, and we can switch that off as well. Altitude. This is where you'll change your barometer pressure to give you elevation, above ground elevation or above sea elevation, or whichever you're given. Tell you that what the current altitude reads on the altimeter, which is -10 there, but it's -19 here. Our radar altimeter, vertical velocity, and also our angle of attack. So they go currently on 2992, but we can change that. I don't know, 3000 Mark, and we've changed that. If we go down, it'll tell us that we are now above 53 feet. Radar is still the same, obviously, but yeah, you get the idea. So we'll change that back to 2992. Okay, go to HUD, and this will give you the different HUD settings, whether you're want it for air to air, air to ground, nav, which I'm currently in, which shows by chevron, caged or uncaged, and we only have the one page on there. We go to other, got one page. This will show off fuel, total fuel in pounds, our bingo fuel, our joker fuel, of which we can change over here on our right tertiary, our fuel flow. If we go down, we've got fuel flow still, TTE and our DTE. Click other again, bit tests, or built-in tests, sorry. None of these actually do anything, but they're there for the looks. Go to other again, timer. This is basically your stopwatch. Temps, so we've got our outside air temperature 52 degrees Fahrenheit, ISA, our TAT, and we can change between Fahrenheit and Celsius there. And that's it for the other section. DVR has no function. So that's a rundown on the menu buttons across the top of the ICP. So all that's left now is to get in the air and show the autopilot. Now what I will say is that info that we input will obviously be displayed on the HUD. Some of it will be in the left tertiary, like our frequencies, whether we're on a TACAN or ident, we're on GPS nav, what steer point we're on, things like that, which will all be controlled via the ICP. So yeah, let's get in the air. Right, so for the demo flight, I've selected to fly from RF Lakenheath to RF Coningsby. I've selected instrument flight rules low altitude airways just to give the flight a bit of variation, and what I'll do is I'll be using the ICP and Autopilot all the way there. So let's jump into the cockpit. Right, let's get going. Have a nice gentle takeoff. Side wind. Get up. Pull back on the throttles. We don't want to be going nuts. And what I'm going to do is I shall select Autopilot with the button there. I will activate it. Now we can follow the flight plan using it's already selected as source as nav1, but we can change that to GPS, and we click nav, and that will now try and get onto the flight plan. What I'm going to do, change a few other options. So we're going to down one, we're going to change the altitude, and I want to activate that at 2,200 feet, but we are going to change it up a bit and go up to 5,000 feet. Enter that, get that climbing. We go back out of that and click Autopilot again, go down. You can change your heading if you don't want to use nav. As there are no heading bugs or course deviation indicators, following VORs can be a bit tricky. Everything's digital. I'm guessing aircraft of today are more into flying GPS mode now, or there just wasn't a way of implementing a standard CDI heading bug and all the normal navigation aids that you get, which is a shame because you can't just fly where you want, how you want, without worrying about if you're on the flight plan or if you're heading towards a VOR, simply because there is no way of finding that information out. So that can be a bit tricky. We come back out of Autopilot, don't follow the nav. As you can see, we're on a heading of 224 at the moment, but if we come down, click out, not altitude, sorry, come back out of that, we go to heading, click heading lock to activate it. We're on heading 225, that will, well, heading 224 actually, but we can change that there. We can change to, I don't know, 260, enter that now, and we'll start turning towards 260. We'll change that again to 265. Okay, and you can see up here on the HUD, our Autopilot is set for 5,000. That is our current altitude. We're slightly above. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the indicated airspeed. So if we go to Autopilot, back down one, go to speed. You can change between, you can swap between Mach and indicated airspeed there. I'm going to choose IAS, and we can change our speed by simply inputting it here. So I don't know, 250 knots seems pretty good to me. Enter that, and you can see we've got 250 there, and once I activate the auto throttle, it will show 250 up there. So click Autopilot, click AT for auto throttle. As you can see, we've got 250 has appeared there, and it has now taken control of the engines. What I'm going to do now is select nav to get us back on the flight plan. We can also adjust our vertical velocity in the climb or in the descent. What we need to do is go to altitude and vertical velocity here. You lock it, and then you can change it here, but it's only in the positive at the moment. So if you want to descend at 3,000 feet per minute, you can enter 3,000, but to change that to minus, that's what this rocker switch is here for. And now we're at minus 3,000 feet. Enter that there, so that when I start a descent, it will descend at minus 3,000 feet per minute. Click it again, it's now in the positive. We can climb 3,000 feet per minute, but I'm not going to do that now. Clear that. What else is there to show? So, like I say, change to nav 1. Again, we would need to have all of our nav frequencies for all the VORs that we would be following. Those would be inputted there in the nav section. They'd show there for nav 1, and you've got your comms over this side. Autopilot shows that it's on, tells us that the altitude hold is on, our indicated airspeed hold is on. ILS is currently off, but I'll switch it on when we get closer to the airfield. One thing I have noticed about the ILS approaches with this aircraft is that they, I don't know if it's a sim thing or an aircraft thing, but they are not in line with the runway. So ILS approaches to certain airfields really isn't worth the hassle, if you know what I mean. Click nav to get the nav hold again, gets back on the flight plan. And I think I'm going to speed it up a little bit. So we can set our speed 450 knots. You can see that's changed there. It's changed there, and we are now accelerating. I'll change the altitude to 6,000 feet. So come down, altitude, click altitude here, 6,000 feet, and enter. You see 6,000 there. Our vertical velocity is going up to 2,500. I think that will go to 3,000. No, back down to 2,000. As it's set. Well, it's not actually set there at the moment, but we could set that, I suppose. So if I'm going to put in minus 3,000 feet. So 3, rocker switch, and we will enter that. And then once we get in the descent, now that I have that as minus 3,000, when I descend to 2,300 feet, it will descend at that rate. Okay, so we have the wash over to my right. Coningsby is in this direction, and just show you steer point information. And you see it's Reg C, we're bearing 03, range 4.2 nautical miles. That will change over to EGXC in a minute, once we get a little bit closer. And there we go. So we're on our steer point for Coningsby. What I'm going to do now is slow the aircraft down and get it descending. So speed, we will set speed to 250, and we need to get the altitude down. Altitude to 2300, and I want to change that to minus minus 3000 just to get us down a little bit quicker. Okay, we're going to input the frequency for the ILS, which I have written down here as 111.150. So go to have one, frequency adjust 111.15, enter. Okay, so we should get some information, which we have here. 9.8.9 nautical miles away, take us less than a minute and a half to get there. I can see Coningsby to the front of me there. What I'm going to do, go back into Autopilot, take it off of nav, come down to heading, switch the heading on, and I'm going to change that to 070. Might help if I click on it first. 070. Slow the aircraft down a little bit more. So a lot of lazy flying here. 180, enter, and get us parallel to the runway, so we can come back on 25 and switch on the approach. Steer point so I can get my range. Well, I've got range up here as well. See if we can change the source there. Oh, we can change it to ILS. Let's get the gear down. Okay, so I'm going to select nav again, as we have our ILS data there in. So there's 111.150. So what we're going to do is this will turn in onto that heading. Okay, so we are almost in line with the runway there. It looks like it's going to bring us in on the approach anyway. Let's select it anyway. Turn auto throttle off. And see how it handles it. So we go to nav, down to ILS1, and now we have all our glide slope and localizer acquisition. We're turning onto the bearing, we're 5 nautical miles out, getting the marker alarm there. Slow the plane down a little bit more as we're going way too fast. Switch that back over to autopilot so I can switch it off just before we touch down. Get ready for the wind to kick my back end out. As you can see, we're trying to fly into the wind and keep straight at the same time. Okay, so that's the inner marker. Turn that off now. We can glide ourselves in. Bit bumpy, but we're there. Jesus. Right, well, there you go. Flown from Lakenheath to Coningsby using autopilot, landed on the approach with ILS, and I've shown you how to use the integrated control panel, or ICP, to input various information. So, sorry about the long-winded video, but if that's helped, fantastic. If not, I do apologise, and if there's anything else I need to add to that, let me know. And thank you for watching, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.